1. Opening. You are allowed to ask. There is something God has been waiting for you to do. Not waiting in frustration, not waiting with crossed arms or a ticking clock. Waiting the way a father waits at the window, watching, hoping, ready to move the moment he sees you coming down the road. He has been waiting for you to bring him what you are carrying. Not the polished version, not the cleaned-up summary you present when you want to sound spiritual. Not the prayer that sounds like you have it all together. The real thing, the raw thing. The need that keeps you up at night. The desire you are almost embarrassed to admit. The request you have held back because you were not sure it was okay to ask. God is not intimidated by what you want. He is not surprised by the depth of your longing. He is not put off by how many times you have asked or how desperate the asking has become. He does not grade your prayer on delivery or dock points for emotion. He receives you, he receives all of you, and he receives everything you carry. This is an invitation. Right here, right now, before we go any further, this is an invitation to bring what is in your heart before the one who made it. You do not need to preface it with apologies. You do not need to qualify it with disclaimers or remind God of how unworthy you are. He already knows your weakness. He already knows the state of your heart. And he is still saying, "Come, bring it, lay it down before me. Let me hear what is on your heart." There is a kind of quiet courage required to actually bring your request to God, because asking requires vulnerability. Asking means admitting that you need something you do not have. Asking means acknowledging that you are not self-sufficient, that your own strength is not enough, that there is a gap between where you are and where you want to be, and you cannot close it on your own. That vulnerability is not weakness. That is the very posture God honors. That is the place where he shows up. So let us begin here, right here, in the stillness you have carved out to be in this place, in this moment. Let your heart settle. Let your breathing slow. Let the noise of everything you were doing before this moment fade back. And just be here. Just be present, you and God and everything you are carrying. This is the beginning of something, not a ritual, not a formula. A real conversation between you and the God who already knows your name, already knows your need, and is already leaning in to hear what you have to say. 2. The weight of unexpressed need. Something happens when we carry a need without bringing it to God. It grows heavier. It does not stay the same size. It expands. The thing you were hoping would resolve itself quietly in the background starts to take up more room in your mind. It follows you into conversations. It shows up when you are trying to sleep. It colors the way you see everything else. There is a reason for that. It was never meant to be carried that way. We were not designed to be self-contained systems that process our own pain, manage our own hope, and resolve our own longings in isolation. We were made for relationship. And the most fundamental relationship, the one that sustains every other, is the one between us and the one who made us. When we cut that connection off from the places where we are hurting or hoping or desperately wanting, we cut ourselves off from the very source that could address what we are feeling. Some people carry requests for years without ever truly bringing them to God, not because they have stopped believing, not because they have given up on prayer altogether, but because somewhere along the way they made a quiet agreement with themselves that this particular thing was too much to ask for, too big, too personal, too likely to end in disappointment. Maybe you made that agreement too. Maybe there is a request sitting at the bottom of your heart that has been there so long it has started to feel like just a fact of your life, something you have come to accept as permanent because asking for it to change felt too risky. I want to speak to that today. I want to say gently but clearly, that agreement is not from God. The idea that some things are too much to ask him, that some desires are too deep or too persistent or too attached to a specific outcome, that idea does not come from the character of God. It comes from somewhere else, and you are allowed to release it. There is no category of human longing that is outside the reach of God. There is no corner of your experience that he has declared off-limits for conversation. He is not a distant deity who handles large geopolitical events and outsources the personal stuff. He is intimately acquainted with everything that concerns you, every detail, every layer, every heartache you have never found the words for. The weight you have been carrying was meant to be laid down, not just accepted, not just managed, laid down before the one who has both the power and the willingness to do something about it. And this is the thing about laying it down. It does not mean the outcome is guaranteed to look the way you want it to look. Bringing your request to God is not a transaction where you input the prayer and collect the answer. It is not a vending machine, it is a conversation. And conversations are living things. They go places you did not expect. They reveal things you did not know were there. They open up understanding that changes not just the situation, but the person asking. When you bring your request to God, you are not just delivering a message and waiting for a response. You are entering into His presence. And His presence does things. It shifts things. It clarifies. It comforts. It prepares. It sometimes rearranges. And it always, always reaches toward what is best for you, even when what is best does not look the way you imagined. So let the weight be here with you right now. Do not push it down. Do not rush past it. Just acknowledge what it is you are carrying. Name it, at least to yourself. Let it be real. Let it be present. Because you cannot bring to God what you will not first acknowledge to yourself. What is the heaviest thing on your heart right now? What is the need that has outlasted your attempts to handle it alone? What is the desire that surfaces again and again, no matter how many times you try to talk yourself out of it, or tell yourself it does not matter? It matters, you matter, and God is ready to receive all of it. 3. Why we hesitate. Let us talk honestly about why we hold back. Because most people who believe in prayer still find themselves hesitating at certain thresholds. There are requests we make easily, the routine ones, the comfortable ones, the ones we know sound reasonable. And then there are the ones that live in that other category, the ones we circle around without ever actually bringing. Why? What stops us? For some people, the hesitation comes from a theology they absorbed somewhere along the way, a belief, never quite stated out loud, that God is more pleased with them when they are not asking for things, that the truly spiritual person is the one who has no needs, who wants nothing, who has so fully surrendered all personal desire that they float through life in a state of perpetual contentment, never burdened by longing. That sounds noble, but that is not how God describes Himself or how He invites us to relate to Him. He invites us to ask. He tells us to come to Him with everything. He says that we have not because we ask not. He is not trying to produce a people who have no desires. He is trying to produce a people who bring their desires to Him rather than trying to satisfy them outside of Him. You are not more spiritual for keeping your needs to yourself. You are not honoring God by pretending you are fine when you are not. The most honest thing you can do before a God who sees everything anyway is to simply be real. Tell Him what is true. Tell Him what you want. Tell Him what you are afraid of. Tell Him what you cannot stop thinking about. For others, the hesitation comes from disappointment. You asked before. You asked sincerely. You brought something before God with real faith, real hope, real expectation. And the answer did not come the way you needed it to. Or it did not come at all. And something inside you quietly decided not to put yourself through that again. That disappointment is real. I'm not going to gloss over it or give you a spiritual quick fix that minimizes what you went through. Unanswered prayer is one of the most genuinely difficult parts of walking with God. It raises hard questions. It surfaces things in us that we did not know were there. But I want to offer you something. Disappointment is not evidence that God was absent. It is not proof that prayer does not work or that your faith was not real. It is evidence that God is sovereign, that His ways are larger than our plans, His timing is not our timing, His purposes sometimes move through a longer, harder road than we would choose. That does not make the disappointment less painful. But it does mean that one closed door, one prayer that did not resolve the way you hoped, is not the final word on whether God hears you, cares about you, or will come through for you. You can come back. You can try again. You can bring this new thing or this old thing you packed away and lay it before Him one more time. Not because you have somehow earned a better outcome, but because He is still God and you are still His, and that relationship has not expired. For still others, the hesitation is rooted in shame. There is a request tied to something they did, something they chose, a situation they created, and somewhere in the asking is the acknowledgement of that thing they wish had gone differently. So they avoid the asking, because the asking would mean looking at it directly. It would mean sitting in that space between what they did and what they are hoping God can still do. Here is what I need you to hear. God is not waiting to add your request to a list of things He will address once you have sufficiently demonstrated your remorse. He is not keeping score. He is not withholding access until you feel bad enough. He receives you as you are. The mess included, the history included, the complicated story of how you got here included, all of it. Come anyway. Bring the request that is tangled up with the thing you wish you could undo. Bring the need that lives right next to the regret. Bring yourself, all of yourself, and let God be God in the middle of all of it. That is exactly what He does best. 4. What it means to present your request. There is a difference between mentioning something to God and actually presenting it to Him. Mentioning is what we do when we include it in a list, a running mental inventory of the things we are sort of hoping God will address at some point. We think about it for a moment, note that it is still there, feel a brief wave of concern or longing, and move on. The thing gets acknowledged but not really brought. It is like leaving something at someone's door without knocking. Presenting is different. Presenting means you stop, you turn toward God, you bring the full weight of the thing and you place it consciously before Him. You give it language, you give it space, you let it matter in the moment rather than rushing past it to the next item on the spiritual to-do list. To present your request to God means to be specific, not because God needs the clarity, He already knows, but because you need it. There is something that happens in the specificity of asking that keeps it from becoming vague spiritual noise. When you say, clearly, this is what I'm asking for, this situation, this person, this outcome, this need, you are doing something. Clarifying not just in the conversation, but in your own heart. You are acknowledging what you actually want rather than hiding it behind generalities. To present your request also means to be honest about why you want it. This might be the harder part, because sometimes our reasons are complicated. Sometimes we want something because we are afraid of what life looks like without it. Sometimes we want something because of what it would mean for how others see us. Sometimes our desire is mixed, part genuine, part self-serving, part tangled up with old wounds that have not fully healed. Bring the complicated reasons too. God is not looking for perfectly pure motives as the entry requirement for answered prayer. He is looking for honest hearts. He can work with complicated. He can purify what needs to be purified in the process of answering. He can shift your reasons as He works, but He starts with you where you are, not where you wish you were. To present your request also means to remain open while you ask. This is the counterintuitive part. True presentation is not an ultimatum. It is not a demand or a negotiation or a transaction. It is an offering. You bring what is on your heart and you hold it with open hands rather than clenched fists. You say, this is what I want. This is what I am hoping for. And I trust that you are better positioned than I am to know what should happen next. That openness is not resignation. It is not giving up on what you asked for. It is not the absence of faith. It is actually the highest form of trust. To want something deeply and to genuinely release the outcome to the one you are asking. It is the belief that God is good enough, wise enough, and caring enough that whatever He does with your request is worth trusting, even if it does not match your imagined answer. Think about the people throughout history who have presented their most desperate requests to God. Think about the ones who brought a need so raw, so urgent, so beyond their own ability to address, and they laid it out before Him. They did not dress it up. They did not soften the edges. They did not make it sound more reasonable than it was. They just said, this is what I need. This is what my heart is crying out for. And they left it in His hands. That is where the exchange happens. Not in the fancy language, not in the long-winded eloquence. In the honest moment when you stop trying to manage the situation yourself and you actually give it to God. Let yourself do that today. Right now, in this moment of stillness, let yourself actually bring it. The real request. The actual thing. Not the safe version. Not the carefully managed version. Not the version that makes you look like you have more faith than you do. The real thing. Give it to God and let Him receive it. 5. The posture of asking. There is a posture that honors both the asking and the one you are asking. It is not a physical posture, though physical stillness can reflect it. It is an inner orientation, a way of approaching God that keeps both the depth of your need and the greatness of his character in view at the same time. The posture of asking begins with acknowledgement, not the acknowledgement of how bad things are. You already know that. The acknowledgement of who he is. The one you are bringing your request to is not a vending machine. He is not a distant cosmic force you are hoping to activate with the right combination of words. He is personal. He is present. He is the God who formed you before you had a language for need, who knew your name before you had a voice to speak it, who has been with you in every moment of every day you have lived, including the ones where he felt completely absent. That acknowledgement matters because it orients the conversation. When you remember who he is, your asking changes. It does not become less earnest. It can become more earnest, actually, because you are asking someone who is genuinely able to respond. But the flavor of it shifts. It is less like screaming into an empty room and more like speaking to a face that is already turned toward you. The posture of asking also involves letting go of the timeline. This is perhaps the hardest part for most people because our need tends to have a sense of urgency attached to it. We do not just want the thing, we want it now or by a certain date or before a specific deadline that feels critical to us. And so we come to God with the need and the timeline both clenched tightly, and we wonder why the asking feels so strained. The timeline is part of what you are being asked to release, not the asking itself, not the specific request, but the insistence on when. Because God's sense of timing is not arbitrary, it is purposeful. He does not make you wait because he is testing your endurance or because your faith needs to prove itself over a longer stretch. He works in time the way an artist works in a medium, with a kind of patience and precision that produces something you could not have produced on the schedule you would have chosen. When you release the timeline, you are not giving up hope. You are expanding it. You are saying, I trust that whenever and however you move, it will be the right moment. You are making room for the answer to arrive in a form you did not predict. The posture of asking also includes gratitude. This might seem backwards. Why would you be grateful before you have received what you are asking for? But gratitude before the answer is a statement of faith. It is the acknowledgement that God has already been faithful, that his track record in your life, even in the hard chapters, has not been one of absence or abandonment, but of a presence that sustained you when you did not see how you would make it through. You can bring your request to God from a place of gratitude, not because everything is fine, but because you have seen enough of his character to know that he can be trusted with what you have not yet seen. That gratitude does not erase the urgency of the need. It holds the urgency in a larger frame. It says, I need this, and I trust you, and those two things can both be true at the same time. And finally, the posture of asking includes surrender, not as defeat, not as giving up, but as the highest expression of trust. Surrender is saying, I have brought this to you. I have told you what is in my heart. I have been honest about what I want and why I want it. And now I'm going to stop white-knuckling it and let you be God. I'm going to stop managing the outcome from the inside and let you manage it from the outside. I'm going to trust that you see what I cannot see, that you are working even when I cannot feel it, and that what you do next is going to be worth trusting. That surrender is not passive. It is not resignation wrapped in spiritual language. It is the most active, deliberate choice you will make today, to release the thing you have been holding so tightly and put it in hands that are far more capable than yours. 6. God hears you. Let this settle into you. Really settle. Not as a phrase you have heard 100 times, not as spiritual white noise, not as a thing you know intellectually, but have not let reach the places where your uncertainty lives. Let it actually land. God hears you. Not a version of you that has cleaned itself up before coming. Not a future version that will be more worthy. Not a hypothetical version that has more faith, more consistency, more put-together theology. You, right now, exactly as you are, in the middle of exactly what you are going through. He hears the things you have the language for and the things you do not. He hears the groan underneath the words, the exhaustion that has no noun attached to it, the grief that keeps changing shape and refuses to be categorized. He hears the prayer you gave up on halfway through because it felt futile. He heard the prayer you could not even say out loud, the one you only managed in broken fragments late at night when no one else was around. He hears the prayer you have prayed so many times it has started to feel like a habit rather than hope. He hears the one you stopped praying because you could not take another round of silence. He hears the doubt that travels alongside the asking. He hears the fear underneath the faith. He hears all of it. And he does not just hear it the way you hear background noise, present but not attended to. He gives it his full attention. He turns toward it. He receives it. What you bring to him is not lost in a queue, not added to an administrative backlog, not processed by some lower level of cosmic management. You have the attention of the God who made you. Think about what that means for a moment. The same God whose intelligence organizes the complexity of the natural world, who holds together the laws that govern everything, from the movement of galaxies to the function of a single cell, that God is attending to what you bring before him. He is not too busy, he is not distracted, he is not stretched thin by the volume of requests from everyone else praying at this same moment. He is fully present to you. This is not about your worthiness, this is about his character. He hears you because that is who he is, a God who is near, who is attentive, who created you for this very kind of relationship. The asking and the hearing are not transactions that require sufficient spiritual currency to complete. They are the natural expression of a relationship that he initiated and that he sustains. Some of you have spent a long time feeling like your prayers were landing in an empty room. You said the words, you brought the requests, and the silence felt so loud it started to feel like an answer itself. Like maybe the silence was God's way of saying he was not there, or he was there but not interested, or he heard but decided what you were asking for was not worth addressing. I want to offer you a different way to hold that silence. Silence from God is not the same as absence. Silence is not the same as indifference. Silence is sometimes the space between the asking and the answering, the in-between where things are being set in motion that you cannot yet see, where the conditions for your answered prayer are being prepared, where you are being prepared. The waiting in that silence is not empty, it is not wasted. Something is happening in the space between your asking and his responding. You are being shaped in ways that matter for what comes next. Your capacity for the thing you are asking for is being formed. Your character is being developed in the waiting in ways it could not be developed if the answer arrived instantly. That does not make the waiting easy. I am not going to tell you that understanding this makes the uncertainty comfortable, but it does make it meaningful. And meaning changes how we endure. So bring your voice back to the conversation. If you have been silent toward God because the silence from him felt too heavy to press through, bring your voice back. Start again. Bring the request, bring the doubt, bring the frustration, bring whatever is true about where you are right now. Bring it all. He hears you. He always has. 7. The different kinds of requests. Not every request you bring to God is the same kind of thing. It helps to understand the range of what you are allowed to bring, because it is wider than most of us have assumed. There are the urgent requests, the ones that have a pressing timeline, the ones that feel like they cannot wait, the situations that are actively deteriorating or have reached a point of crisis. These are the prayers we most easily recognize as prayers. The emergency, the health scare, the relationship that is fracturing faster than we can address it, the financial situation that has gone from difficult to critical, the child who is in danger, the thing that is falling apart in real time while you are trying to hold it together. Bring those. Bring them with all the urgency they carry. Do not dress down the desperation. God is not overwhelmed by your emergency. He is not put off by how urgent it feels. Come with all of it, at whatever volume the situation requires. There are the quiet requests, the ones that do not have the energy of an emergency, but have a kind of persistent ache attached to them. The loneliness that does not go away, the longing for something meaningful, the desire for a different kind of life than the one you have been living, the hope for change that has been with you so long you almost do not feel it anymore. It has just become part of the background of your existence. These are the requests that most often go unspoken, because they do not feel urgent enough to deserve prime prayer real estate, because they seem like wants rather than needs, because somewhere you absorbed the message that bringing something to God just because you want it is somehow less legitimate than bringing the clear crises. But God cares about the quiet ache too. He cares about the loneliness and the longing and the desire for something more. He created you with the capacity for deep desire, and He does not intend for that capacity to just collect dust or be managed down into a settled resignation. He invites you to bring the quiet things too, the desires that do not have a screaming urgency but have a gentle persistence that tells you they matter. There are the relational requests, the ones that involve other people, their choices, their hearts, their situations. The person you love who is walking a road that frightens you, the relationship that is broken and you do not know how to repair it, the reconciliation you have been hoping for that has not yet come, the family member who is distant, the friend who has pulled away, the partner whose heart you feel you are losing. When you bring these, you are not asking God to override someone's free will or force an outcome. You are asking Him to be present in those lives, to work in the spaces you cannot reach, to do what only He can do, move in a person's heart, create the conditions for change, orchestrate the moments that only He has the vantage point to arrange. There are the provision requests, the practical material needs, the financial pressure, the job you are hoping for, the opportunity that has not opened yet, the resource that is required for the next step and is not currently available. These feel uncomfortable for some people to bring because they seem too mundane or too self-serving, but God is interested in the practical details of your life. He is not only available for spiritual conversations about abstract things. He cares about whether your needs are met. He invites you to bring the real and specific and practical things. And there are the healing requests, not only physical, though certainly physical, the healing of grief that has gone on too long, the healing of a wound that keeps reopening, the healing of a relationship, the healing of a part of yourself that was damaged by something that happened and has not fully recovered, emotional healing, mental health, the parts of you that you have been quietly managing rather than allowing to be genuinely restored. You are allowed to ask for all of these, not just the ones that sound most spiritual, not just the ones that feel most acceptable to ask for, all of them. Because God is not just the God of the dramatic spiritual journey, He is the God of the whole life, every category of it. 8. When the asking is hard. Sometimes presenting your request to God is genuinely hard. Not hard in the sense of the logistics of prayer, but hard in the sense that bringing this particular thing to God feels like it costs something. It costs your sense of control. It costs the story you have been telling yourself about how you are handling it. It costs the distance you have maintained from the full weight of it. There are requests that, when you start to bring them, surface feelings you were not expecting, grief you thought you had dealt with, anger that you did not realize was still there, fear that you have been keeping at arm's length by staying busy. When the words start to form, the feelings come up with them. And sometimes we stop the words to stop the feelings. Do not stop the words. Let the feelings come. God is big enough to receive the full emotional reality of what it is you are carrying. He is not put off by your tears, not concerned by your anger, not troubled by your fear. These are not obstacles to prayer. They are often the deepest form of it. When you run out of composed, carefully worded sentences and you are just sitting with the raw feeling of something in the presence of God, that is not a failure of prayer. That might be the most honest prayer you have ever offered. There are requests that are hard to bring because they require you to admit that you still want something. You have tried to stop wanting. Maybe you told yourself you let it go. Maybe you tried to convince yourself you had moved past the desire, released the attachment, accepted that this thing was not going to happen. And then you find yourself here and the desire is still there, still alive, still present, still a real thing in your chest that has not gone away, no matter how many times you tried to reason yourself out of it. That persistence is not weakness. It is honesty. A desire that survives your attempts to eliminate it is telling you something. It is telling you that it is real, that it matters, that it has not gone away because it was not meant to just disappear. It was meant to be brought somewhere. It was meant to be brought here to the one who planted longing in the human heart as a capacity that would orient us toward what we most need. So bring the desire you thought you had surrendered, but are realizing you have not actually surrendered. Bring it honestly. Tell God, I know I said I was done wanting this, but I am not. I still want it. I do not know what to do with the wanting. I do not know if this is something I should keep asking for or something I need help releasing. But here it is. Here is the truth of what is in my heart. Meet me here. There are also requests that are hard because they involve pain, because bringing them to God means being in the presence of the pain rather than running from it. It means acknowledging the loss, the hurt, the wound, and not just acknowledging it, but presenting it to God, saying, "This is what I am carrying, and I do not know how to carry it anymore." God is not asking you to be strong in those moments. He is not waiting for you to pull yourself together before you come. He meets you in the weakness. He meets you in the pain. He does not stand at a distance until you have composed yourself. He comes into the middle of it. And something about being present with God in the middle of the pain begins to do something that the pain alone cannot do. It begins to hold it differently. Not to erase it. The grief is real, the wound is real, but to give it a different container, one that is larger than the pain itself. Come in the hard moment. Come in the barely holding together moment. Come with the thing that feels too difficult to voice. God is not scared of what you bring. He is ready to meet you in it. 9. Letting go of the outcome. Here is the part that requires the deepest kind of trust. Not the asking itself, the releasing. To present your request to God and then hold it with an open hand rather than continuing to grip it, continuing to manage it, continuing to strategize and calculate and try to push the outcome toward what you want. That is the hardest and most necessary part of this conversation. Because we do not only want to ask, we want to control. And prayer becomes a vehicle for control when we approach it as a mechanism we have mastered, a system that will produce the outcome we want if we input the right combination of faith and words and persistence. We keep asking not from a place of trust, but from a place of pressure, as if volume of request will eventually move God's hand the way it might finally move a hesitant person. God does not move from pressure. He moves from love. He moves from his own perfect wisdom and his genuine care for what is best for you. And what is best for you does not always match the picture you have built in your mind of how this should resolve. This is not a comfortable thing to sit with. When the thing you are asking for is deeply tied to something that matters enormously to you, a person's health, a relationship, a dream, a fundamental change in your circumstances, the idea of releasing the outcome can feel like betrayal, like you are not fighting hard enough, like your faith is slipping, like giving up. But releasing the outcome is not giving up. It is the most mature, the most trusting, the most genuinely faithful thing you can do. It is saying, "I believe you are working. I believe you are good. I believe that what you do with this is going to be right, even if I cannot see it yet, even if it does not look the way I planned." There is something that happens when we release the outcome. The grip loosens. The anxiety that has been tied to the needing to control eases. There is a rest that becomes available, not because the situation has resolved, not because the need has disappeared, but because you have genuinely placed it in hands that are more capable than yours, and you are trusting those hands to hold it well. This does not mean becoming passive or indifferent to the outcome. You can care deeply about what happens next and still release the outcome to God. Caring is not the same as controlling. You can hope, you can want, you can even ache for a particular resolution and still say at the end of your asking, "But your will, not mine," and mean it. Not as a resignation, but as a genuine expression of trust that his will is worth wanting. Think about the difference between these two postures. In one, you hold the request tightly all the way through, asking but never releasing, praying but continuing to carry the full weight, trusting partially but keeping one hand on the controls just in case. In the other, you bring the request fully, voice it completely, lay out everything in your heart, and then you let it go. You leave it there. You walk away from that conversation having given something over rather than having merely mentioned it and taken it back with you. The second posture is not easier. It is actually much harder, but it is the one that produces peace, and not a peace that comes from understanding how everything is going to work out. That kind of peace is very fragile because circumstances change, and what you think you understand today can be overturned tomorrow. The peace I am talking about is independent of circumstances. It comes from the settled knowing that God has this, that it is in his hands, that he is not going to drop it. Let it go today. Let God receive the full request and let him be sovereign over what he does with it. Trust him with the outcome, not because you do not care, but because you trust the one you have given it to. 10. Staying in the conversation. Prayer is not a one-time event. Bringing your request to God today is not a transaction you complete and then step away from. It is the opening of a conversation that is meant to stay open, to continue through the days and weeks that follow, to evolve as circumstances evolve, to deepen as your understanding of God and yourself deepens. There is a kind of prayer that treats each session as an isolated incident. You come, you ask, you leave, you go about your day, and then you come back when there is another need. In between, the connection is largely silent. You live in the space between prayers without much awareness of God being present in the ordinary moments, the unremarkable hours, the stretches of your life that do not feel particularly spiritual. But the conversation was never meant to be episodic. It was meant to be continuous. Not that you spend every waking moment engaged in formal prayer, but that you move through the day with a kind of openness toward God that keeps the line available. A thought that surfaces and becomes a quick bringing it to Him. A feeling of gratitude that becomes a moment of acknowledgement. A moment of anxiety that becomes an immediate and honest. I am feeling this. I bring this to you. Help me here. This continuous quality is what changes the nature of the relationship. When God becomes someone you talk to throughout the day, rather than only in designated moments, the relationship develops texture. You start to notice Him more. You start to recognize His presence in places you were not looking for it. You start to hear, over time, the quiet sense of direction and peace that becomes available when the connection is alive and ongoing. Keeping the conversation going also means returning to the request you have already brought, not because God needs to be reminded, He does not, but because you need to continue practicing the trust that says, I gave this to you. I'm still trusting you with it. I'm going to keep living with open hands rather than taking it back and trying to manage it myself. Some requests are answered quickly. Some are answered in ways you recognize immediately. But many of the things you bring to God are answered over a longer arc, through a process rather than an event, in stages rather than all at once. Staying in the conversation means staying engaged with God through that longer process, not checking out because the resolution is taking longer than you wanted, not pulling back into self-sufficiency because the waiting has gone on too long. Let today be the beginning of a more honest, more continuous, more trusting way of relating to God. Not a day you can look back on as the day you tried this once. Let it be the opening of a practice, the practice of bringing what is real, giving what is heavy, releasing what you cannot control, and staying in conversation with the one who already has more than enough for everything you need. 11. Closing, you have been heard. You came here with something. Maybe you came with a clear, specific request you knew you needed to bring. Maybe you came carrying something you could not fully name. Maybe you came just to be still, and in the stillness, something surfaced that you did not know was there until this moment. Whatever brought you here, you are not leaving the same way you arrived. Something has shifted in the act of presence. Something moves when we bring what is real before God and let it be met by His reality. He does not change in this moment, but we do. The asking changes us. The presenting changes us. The releasing changes us. We become a little more honest, a little more open, a little more willing to trust what we cannot yet see. I want to say something to you before we close. You were brave to come. You were brave to bring the real thing instead of the safe version. You were brave to sit with the weight of it rather than running from it. That bravery is not a small thing. And God received what you brought. He did not weigh it on a scale of worthiness and find it lacking. He did not compare it to a more impressive request and find yours ordinary. He received you. Everything you carried, everything you said, everything you could not find the words for, all of it was received by a God who was already inclined toward you before you said a single word. The work of this moment does not end when this recording ends. It continues in the days and weeks ahead as you watch for what God does with what you gave Him. It continues as you practice bringing the next thing rather than carrying it alone. It continues as you develop the habit, not of religious obligation, but of relational honesty, of going to God first with what is pressing on your heart rather than going to Him after you have exhausted every other option. The asking is practice. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. The more you bring to God, the more you trust Him with. The more you see him move in the small requests, the more confidence you build for the large ones. The more honest you are in prayer, the more you find that honesty is exactly what he was waiting for all along. There will be days when this feels effortless, when you come to God easily, words flowing, heart open, full of trust and gratitude. And there will be days when it is hard, when the silence feels heavy, when the gap between what you asked for and what has happened is difficult to hold. On those days, come anyway, not because you have summoned extraordinary faith. Come because this is what you do. You come, you bring what is real, you give it to God, and you trust him with it, and then you live the rest of the day as if you actually believe he received it. He did. Your request has been heard, not by an indifferent universe, not by a principle or a force or an abstract presence, by a God who knows your name, who has been present every day of your life, who cares about what you care about with a depth and a specificity that defies simple description. He heard you. He will move. He will do what he does, with wisdom and love and a care for you that does not waver and does not depend on the state of your faith on any given day. Go from this place a little lighter. Go knowing that what you left here, in this act of honest asking and genuine release, is being held in the best possible hands. Go with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are not alone, who has laid something down, who has brought what was too heavy to keep carrying and given it to someone big enough to carry it well. You are heard, you are held, and what happens next is in the hands of a God who is already working on your behalf, already moving in the direction of what is best for you, already arranging things in ways you cannot yet see. Trust him with it. He is worthy of your trust. And while you wait, live. Do not put your life on hold until the answer arrives. Do not press pause on your joy, your relationships, your work, your engagement with the world around you, as if real living cannot begin until the thing you prayed for is resolved. God meets you in the living, not just in the waiting. He is present in the ordinary days between the asking and the answer. He is doing things in those days that matter as much as the answer itself. Live generously, live with attention. Let the act of prayer today open your eyes to what God is already doing in the spaces around you, the kindness that arrives unexpectedly, the conversation that lands at exactly the right moment, the small turn of events that seems coincidental but feels like more than coincidence. These are not accidental. These are the fingerprints of a God who is active and attentive and moving in ways both large and small in the direction of your good. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not an afterthought in a universe too vast to pay attention to individual hearts. You are known. You are specifically, individually, irreducibly known by the God who made you. And what you brought before him today, that request, that need, that longing, it is known too. It is being held with a care that you would recognize if you could see the fullness of it. Go in peace. Go in trust. Go knowing that the conversation you open today does not end here. It continues. You are invited back tomorrow and the day after that with more to bring, with more to release, with more to receive. The door that was always open is still open. The one who was always ready to hear is still listening. You are heard. You are held. And what happens next is in the hands of a God who is already working on your behalf, already moving in the direction of what is best for you, already arranging things in ways you cannot yet see.